People think it's glamorous. First ones on the mountain, the iconic red uniform.
Okay, bud.
But it's a really important job.
I got you.
You have to take it seriously.
Good boy.
When you put on that vest, it changes you.
Let's go, bud.
Chris still takes me up the mountain a couple of days each week. The thing that's kept me coming back are the belly scratches. There's nothing like the wind in your fur as you ride up Chair 4. I'll never forget when Chris and his family showed up in Michigan to take me home. He had one look at me, and he realized I had real potential. When they lifted me into that big truck, headed for Colorado with my new family, I knew it was going to be the adventure of a lifetime. When I started on Vail Patrol, I was definitely the odd one out. There'd never been a dog on patrol, and no one knew exactly how or if it would work. But Chris knew how important I was to the team. He's been my guy from day one. In the early days, I thought it was just a bunch of games. After all that training, I know it's not just a game. We have to be ready on the front lines for a real emergency.
How long are you with PHQ or Eagle Test?
I'm at PHQ.
Patrollers at the time could be a little intimidating. But when I was around, suddenly people were more interested in our work. They stopped by more often, and not just when there was an emergency. When Chris was busy showing me the ropes, the rest of the team discovered an unexpected talent of mine. I'm adorable, and adorable dogs are magnets for people. I guess you could say I brought a softer side to patrol. And so they thought it would be a good idea to bring on more dogs. They're just puppies, and they too thought it was just playtime. I had to let them know when they put on their vest, they've got a job to do. I never really thought about having a legacy before, but I see how the program's grown. I see that we did something important. We made this mountain a better place. And we've had a ton of fun doing it. But I'm not done yet. I've still got plenty of chairlift rides and belly rubs left.
Hi, everyone. Wow. So as of this morning, we sold like 9 tickets, maybe 10. Yeah. So everybody came out at the very end. I love it. So thank you so much all for coming. Do the dogs want to come over here? We'll bring the dogs out in a second. But I wanted to, first of all, I want to thank the Vail Ski Patrol for coming tonight because they work really hard all day long. Hi, Pepper. So this is super cool, but I do want to thank our sponsors. So tonight, our sponsor is the town of Vail. So the town of Vail is a wonderful supporter of the ski museum. They give us very, very, very reduced rent, so we're super appreciative of the town of Vail. So thank you to the town, and then also West Vail Liquor Mart for everything they do for us. But I'm so grateful that the Vail Ski Patrol said they would come and do this because these guys work all day long. And then they're here at night now, so it's great. So we get asked all the time in the museum, what do the dogs do on the mountain? And we're always like, I'm kind of like making stuff up. And I'm like, I don't really know. So I was super excited when John and Mongo said they would come and do this so that we can all learn what the dogs actually do because they are more than just cute faces and cute paws and all of that. So this is John Alphon. Mongo, or Chris Reeder is over there. He's the director of Ski Patrol. Billy, I know Bill. Of course I know his dog, Pepper. And these guys are, yes. So I'm going to let John kind of introduce the dogs, and then John's going to speak for like 30, however long, kind of tell them what they're doing. And then we'll do a Q&A. So save all your questions for the end because we're going to do a big Q&A. And then also, for those of you who are not a member of the museum, I got to do a plug. If you're not a member of the museum, please consider becoming a member. It keeps us open and free to all. We are open every day, 10 to 6. So, and we're free. So thank you. And please consider becoming a member. And we have another program coming up this Friday night because it is Legacy Weekend. And Legacy Weekend obviously is connected to the 10th Mountain Child Labor. It is connected to the 10th Mountain Division. And this is the weekend that we're celebrating our history, Vail's history, and the 10th Mountain Division. The anniversary of Riva Ridge was it was Sunday night, February 18th. And so we try to coincide with that weekend as much as you can. But this weekend, there's lots and lots of things coming up with the 10th Mountain Division. And we are hosting Flint Whitlock and Eric Miller. They wrote an amazing book on Camp Hale from the beginning all the way to the end. And then that's it. That's all it is. But just reading that book, I learned so much about Camp Hale, and I thought I knew a lot, but you are going to learn a lot from those guys. And that's Friday night, and that is another ticketed event. So now I'm going to hand it off to John and Billy. Do you guys want another microphone? Yeah.
Well, I think if you all can hear me, it's probably easier to go without the microphone, but if you can't, then we'll use it. Oh, you are? Okay. So, do you want to turn it down just maybe a teeny bit? Okay. All right. Thanks, Jen. Are we good to go? Okay. Thanks, Jen, for inviting us and having us come in and talk. We love talking about the dogs because we love the dogs. You're looking here at the second generation of Avalanche dogs here on Vail Mountain. Rocky's part of the first generation, and the pioneer of our dog department was Henry. And Henry unfortunately passed a year ago in November, but Henry's owner, Chris Reeder, is over there. And Mongo, I'm going to embarrass you and have you come up and say hi to everybody. Without Chris, this dog program wouldn't exist. And, Henry really led the way. When Mongo brought Henry on the mountain, we were all just kind of shooting at the hip. We didn't really know what we were going to do or how we were going to do it, but we figured it out along the way. Henry was a tremendous dog, and he led the way for Rocky and Mookie next, and now for this next generation. And, you want to say just a couple words?
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. Henry was absolutely a terrific dog for sure, and quite the ambassador for us, being our first Avalanche dog, and did pave the way for a terrific program that we have right now. Was Henry the best Avalanche dog ever in the world? Yes. No, he was our experimental child, and he was the one that we learned everything that we know now. Right now, our program is one of the best programs in the world, and we're super proud of it. And Henry certainly paved the way, and we're really appreciative of that. And now we have 6 dogs. We have a fresh new batch right now. We have the full gamut of Rocky and Mookie isn't here right now, but those are our 2 veteran dogs that right now our dogs will have a service life. Basically, sometime when they're around 2 to 3 years old is when they pass their final exam, right? And they become fully validated Avalanche dogs that we'll put on helicopters and we'll send into the backcountry. And we've got Mookie and Rocky. Once they get to be 8 or 10 or so, then we move them into a category of they are our top performers at local schools and top performers at Dine with the Dogs on Sundays, sponsored by Helly Hansen up at the Henry's Hut up at the top of the mountain. And we have some super fast, high-performing dogs and some up-and-comers like Moxie and Pepper and Uller are our newest up-and-comers, and they are crushing it right now. I probably stole all the thunder right there, but thank you. I'm Mongo. Thank you for coming, and I'm Henry's dad. That's how everybody knows me. Yeah.
And a shameless plug, Mongo and his friend Mike over there have put together a little whiskey in memory of Henry, the Avi Dog whiskey. Makes a great gift if you're in town and want to bring something home. Or
Absolutely, the shameless plug, yeah. We started off, we do a lot of fundraising because training dogs is expensive and it's not often included in a ski patrol budget. And it is important, and ski patrols across the country, we all fundraise. If you go into any patrol headquarters in any ski area in the western states, they're going to be selling t-shirts and hats to support their dog program. And we are no different. And so a bunch of years ago, we did start with a fundraising idea of selling wine. We had a local friend in Michigan that had a vineyard, and we did a run of wine for 2 years, and all the proceeds went to help train these dogs. Everything went to CRAD. And Mikey, my best friend, he partnered with me on that. It was actually a friend of his. And here we are maybe 5 years later after the wine. We thought about pushing our chips back in the pot, and I was like, Mikey, I'm not a wine guy, are you? And Mikey was like, no, we're not wine guys. So we hit the pause button, but we are bourbon guys, and the opportunity came. And so now we're doing the same thing all over again with Avi Dog Bourbon, and it's going well. And we are raising a bunch of money, and a lot of it is going to help these dogs train. So it's my shameless plug.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess what we can do now is sort of start at the beginning. Everybody that comes up on the mountain that wants to know about the dogs first says, are they your dogs? Or there's a misconception that they belong to the mountain. The reality is that each one of these dogs belongs to their individual handler. We pay for the dogs on our own. We train the dogs on our own. We select the dogs on our own. We individually seek out breeders that have a track record, maybe not necessarily with Avalanche dogs, but with hunting dogs. And it's our belief here in Vail that although there are a number of different breeds that have been effective Avalanche dogs, that we prefer to use Golden Retrievers and Labs because they exhibit all the qualities that we believe are important for an Avalanche dog. One, if you get them from a proper breeder that has hunting in their line, they have excellent drive. There's a couple different drives. There's a hunt drive, which is, their desire to find something, and then there's something else called a prey drive, which is when they find that thing that they're looking for, they really have the energy to go and get it. And those two components are crucially important for Avalanche search and rescue, because it's one thing for the dog to sort of locate the person, but oftentimes they're pretty far below the surface, and so they need to have the desire not only to find them, but to want to get to them. So, you know, we go through a pretty rigorous process once we've identified a breeder. We work with the breeder. There are certain tests. There's one called the Volhard puppy test. But, you know, you're looking for qualities of a dog that's not going to shy away from loud noise, that's going to be the one in the litter, that's going to be up and energetic while, you know, a lot of the other ones are sleeping. Maybe one that causes a little bit more trouble than most, which definitely make them a little more challenging for a house pet. And if you don't take them to work for 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row, you know, your house can start looking like a cemetery for dog toys. But they're great dogs, they're friendly dogs, and besides being good at, you know, the hunting and finding element, you know, they're also great around people. Golden Retrievers and Labs are just, they love people. They love to be pet. They love the attention. And so for the things that we're looking for here in Vail, these type of dogs tend to fill all the needs. Billy, do you want to say some stuff about sort of when you get the pup and bringing them into training, things like that?
So starting out with, obviously we get the pups at about 8 to 10 weeks old, so they're really young and really small, and it takes a little while for them to kind of get used to their new environment, right? So we want to introduce them into everything as slowly as possible to make sure that they're comfortable with everything. So starting up on the hill, we kind of walk them around the base areas, get them used to lifts and snowmobiles and snowcats and everything that we have up on the mountain in order to get them ready to actually go up and be on the mountain and start their training. And that can take up to, you know, a couple weeks or even a few days. And Pepper, I mean, she fell in love with her best friend Moxie here right away. That wasn't too hard of an introduction, and they do this all day. This is WrestleMania craziness all day. So,
All right.
and Pepper kind of got thrown into the mix right away. We had a helicopter come and do a drill in her first week on the hill. So she got introduced to snowcats and snowmobiles and loud noises and helicopters. And I have a pretty funny video that she took a nap when the helicopter landed. She didn't care at all. So I was like, all right, perfect. Loud noises, not too much to worry about. And so then once we get them introduced and when they're on as a puppy, we don't really do a whole lot of Avalanche training right away because we don't want to overdo everything with them. A lot of it is introduction and kind of puppy training and obedience and just getting them used to their new family. That, you know, the other dogs and the ski patrollers and the other people skiing around and working on the mountain, they need to understand that, you know, socialization is a really big key to training our dogs, that it's not just all about work and drive, but, you know, this kind of stuff where we get to meet you guys and they get comfortable being around kids in ski boots and pulling and prodding, and they understand that, you know, that's part of the game too, that, you know, people are around and they're friendly. So it's a lot of work, but they do really well with it. And like John said, the reason we picked these breeds is, you know, they're very family friendly breeds and they're strong working dogs. So it's a good mix for both sides on Vail Ski Patrol.
So one rumor that I'll dispel right away here tonight is that the dogs do not ski. You'd be amazed.
They'll try.
They'll try.
They'll definitely try.
But to Billy's point of all the massive amounts of training that these dogs go through, it's the Avalanche part is just a small part of it. You know, we need to learn as handlers, and the dogs need to learn as working dogs how to get around. So, you know, it's everything from loading a gondola, loading a chairlift, being comfortable on snowmobiles. You know, for us, Moxie and Pepper are small enough that they'll actually ride on our backs, on our shoulders, on our packs if we need to move them around and, you know, the snow's deep or the terrain's awkward or, frankly, we're just going a long distance. Rocky was a little big to do that, but
That's a big back.
Yeah. My knees can't take that anymore. But it's a lot of exposure to a lot of different things. And, you know, the dogs get done at the end of the day, and they're mentally overwhelmed a lot of times. It just so much gets thrown at them. And then, you know, about halfway through their first winter, you start with the Avalanche training. And, you know, that's a very sort of slow and steady progression that we use. You know, in fact, Billy and Pepper, you know, started in the fall before they even saw snow, because what you're trying to do is make it a game, the most fun game in the world for the dogs, because they don't understand the concept of an avalanche, and they don't know that, you know, they are probably the fastest, best hope for finding somebody, especially if they don't have the proper equipment, and are in a situation where otherwise it would take a really long time to find them. They just think that it's fun. So our job is to make their lives as fun as possible on the mountain. And we start by playing just simple runaway games. And it starts, you know, the dog is very bonded to his handler, his or her handler. And so the handler himself will start running away. And you pick up a certain word that you want to use for your dog. And then another person will hold the dog. Well, Billy would run away, and then they'd say the command to Pepper and let her go. And because she's so bonded to Billy, she'll run off and find him. And you sort of start linking that command with the action of finding a person. And once they get proficient at that, you move to having somebody other than the handler. And once you get proficient at that, it's a slow progression of like being partially hidden, being fully hidden, not seeing them at all, and then having to use their nose instead of their eyes to locate the person. And you slowly build and build and build. And when we get on the mountain in the winter, you know, we start digging snow caves where we try to put people. This year has been tough. We had so little snow at the beginning of the year that we had to really improvise. But, you know, you're just building slowly, slowly, slowly to make it the funnest thing that they can possibly do, with the goal of by the end of the second season, we feel that our dogs should be competent enough to pass a validation test. And that test comprises of an area that's about 300 by 300 square feet with an unknown number of people from 1 to 3 in this area. And you and your dog have to go in there, and you have 30 minutes to locate all the people and clear the site and determine. And they're buried between, I think the new standard is 5 to 6 feet deep. So, you know, it's Rocky and I went through the new standard a couple years ago at Keystone, and you know, Rocky did very well, but you know, he's an older dog and he wasn't moving quite as fast as he should have. And at that point, I realized that probably his time as an active, validated avalanche dog was probably over. But fortunately, we had a few young ones in the pipeline here, and you know, our goal is to have 3 to 4 validated dogs on the mountain every season, so that every day we can have one on the hill if the situation arises. So, you know, I think that really, you know, we put a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of time into these dogs, and you know, we're really bonded. You know, unbelievable bond between the handler and the dog, and to have a dog that has a purpose is really special. You know, I've had golden retrievers on my own since I was in my early 20s, and they've all been awesome dogs, but it just really is rewarding to have a dog that you take to work every day that has the potential of really doing something spectacular someday. I don't know if you anything you want to add?
Yeah, like John said, you know, our bond with the dog, it's something real, and it's something that we've all been working towards through our career as ski patrollers. When I first started, you know, on my application, I put that I grew up training dogs, and my main goal was to eventually have my own dog on ski patrol. And it took me about 8 years to get to that point. So it's not it's not an easy task by any means. And there's a lot that goes into getting to that point too, where I worked on training Rocky and helping John go through his process of training Rocky, and I was a quarry, so I was one of the guys that would dig the holes and then go and lay in a hole for 45 minutes and wait for a dog to get off a helicopter and come find me and stuff. So I spent a lot of time freezing my butt off in the snow in a hole waiting for a dog to come before I didn't have to be that guy in the hole anymore, and I got to go find the guys in the hole. So
If anybody's looking to volunteer for that,
it's kind of nice. You get to take a nap or something, but no, it's a lot of work, and we rely on a lot of people in order to get these dogs to where they are. So it's not just us as handlers or the dogs themselves. We have an entire department of guys and girls that have worked countless years training all our dogs through our department and training our new dogs, and we really couldn't do it without their support. And so that's been super helpful. But getting to a point where you get to have your dog go to work with you every day and see the look on their face when they know it's time for them to go out and search, it's really spectacular. And to see that drive come through, and it's all that hard work that you've worked so hard to get to that point, and it finally pays off. It's pretty spectacular. One of our new friends,
Yep.
Uller, he's the youngest of the pups, and he may not look it because he's like twice the size of these girls, but this is Uller, and Charlie is his handler. So everybody's happy.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. My name is Charlie Segerdal, and this is Uller. He's 7.5 months old, and he's our biggest growing Avi dog right now. And I don't know what's been covered, but currently we're just working on basically this whole year is getting him used to riding the chairlifts and the gondola, and starting kind of the beginning of what search is, and how to train search, and how to basically get really comfortable with the only game that they're going to be playing for the rest of their life. But yeah, other than that, Uller's kicking butt and loving his friends and loving all the kids, and yeah, what more can I say?
Jen, do you want to? I think probably be productive to have people ask questions. We can do.
So I have a quick question. Mongo was like, and they're crushing it. What is that? What do you mean by they're crushing it? Like they're just getting used to everybody? Like when
No,
the puppies.
I think what Mongo's referring to is their training.
Their training.
We've been putting a lot of effort ever since we started getting snow into getting holes and getting the dogs exposure to training, and they seem to be doing really well. With the goal again, with Moxie by the beginning of April for her to be able to locate two people, 5 to 6 feet deep, and she's what you want too with the dog like this is a dog that's confident and comfortable doing what you're asking them to do. So they need to do what we range for us. So like when we get to a slide path or a search area or something, and I put her to work, like I want her running around looking for things, and when she's doing that, I slowly move sort of back and forth, but I don't say anything, and my body language will sort of direct her, and so she's gotten to be really good at moving at far distances from me, kind of keeping an eye on it, and I'll make subtle movements, and it'll kind of keep her within the parameters of the area that we want her to search, and really when you see a dog locate a person, what we call winding, is they catch the scent. It's really cool to watch because they'll be running around, and then all of a sudden they stop and they turn like 90 degrees and just head straight, and it's really cool to see. So she's doing really well in her progression, and I think that's what.
Questions? Who has questions here?
I was just wondering how many hours they work during the day.
Well, so I mean, technically they work the same hours we do. You know, they go up the mountain with us at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they come down at sweep time at 4:30 or 5 o'clock at night. Now, a lot of the time during the day, they're just in an outpost, you know, sort of sleeping and hanging out. You know, the thing is that in addition to being Avalanche dog handlers, we're also ski patrollers. And we have to be ski patrollers first and dog handlers second. So the responsibilities of our job on the mountain take precedent. And then when we can find the time, we'll try and squeeze a drill in here or, you know, some obedience there. And so the actual working part of their day can be pretty short. You know, the drill might last for 5 minutes, 8 minutes. Might take us 2 hours to set that up. But, you know, they're on the hill all day. And, they, like I said, exposed to the other things like snowmobiles and being pet and people and all that. Yeah.
What do you train them to smell? Like everybody has a different scent, or do dogs know what a person smells like?
Dogs know what a person. We're just training them on odor. So, you know, just a super quick science class. It's probably very flawed because I did very poorly in science. But the ground itself is typically 0 degrees centigrade, and the air above it is is colder. And so you have vapor that rises from the ground through the snow. A human being, it's called rafting cells. So cells fall off your body continuously in the millions all the time, even in the freezing cold. And so those cells get picked up by the water vapor, get carried to the surface of the snow, and then whatever way the wind's blowing, when they get to the surface, will push. So we're teaching that dog to locate any smell, not a specific smell, just odor of a human being. And it, you know, it comes out in like a V, right? So when it hits the surface, it's small like this, but then it spreads out. So when a dog gets in what's called a scent cone, okay, they will get drawn right into that point. You know, so that's an interesting question. And what I will say is that I've been to a few dog schools where we've done some work with human remains. And dogs act very differently on human remains as they do with live humans. And so I think, to answer your question, if it were a dead animal, something like that, that has a completely different odor profile and not anything that they've been trained to. They may be interested in it, but, you know, they're not trained for that.
Are the dogs used to the cold, or are they trained to, like, handle it?
Yes. They are used to the cold because they're trained to handle it. They're out there every day. You know, we don't, for our dogs, you know, they sell all these different products, right? Like the mittens that you can put over their paws, or something called musher's wax. And we really haven't had much success with any of those products. The paw protectors tend to fall off. The musher's wax gets licked off. But because the dogs are on the hill every day, you know, their paws get calloused. And then we try to keep the fur in between their paws, like, short. And so, you know, they just deal with the snow. You know, they run. They're happy. It doesn't seem to bother them. So they're kind of conditioned for that.
How many people have you saved or, like, helped since you started this?
Well, in practice, a lot. Rocky has probably found over 250 people in drills. Okay? But fortunately, we've never had to take one of these dogs out to look for a person that's been buried in an avalanche. It's something that does not happen very frequently. But in any sort of first responder world, there are things that you have to train for that might never happen. But if it does happen, you have to be ready. So we train a lot for that thing that may happen, and you never know when it's gonna, so we just have to be ready all the time.
I'm just going to give Vail Ski Patrol a plug. The reason why we don't have a lot of avalanches is because these guys do a phenomenal job keeping us safe. So Thank you to Vail Ski Patrol. Yeah, we could have a whole segment on how do you blow a bomb on the mountain. It's kind of fun.
So I'm not sure where it happened this winter, but there was an avalanche on slope. Was it in Utah?
Squab out.
And I'm wondering if they had Avi dogs.
I don't know the details very much, but what I do know is that they did deploy their dogs, and the dogs did find at least one person very quickly, and that person did end up surviving, I believe. So, you know, they're an unbelievably fast and efficient resource. They can move through the snow so much quicker than a human being, and you know they only have one goal in mind, and you know, so I'm sure without knowing the details that when they open that terrain at, what do they call that mountain now? Palisades. That they had dogs up on top for that exact reason, and unfortunately they had to use them.
John, can I ask a question? You've been doing this 8 or 10 years, is that right?
I've been doing it for 14 years.
14 years.
Yeah.
And you were saying that our program here is so good. Are you training other from other resorts in Colorado, or tell us what you're doing with other resorts?
So about, I'd say 12 or 13 years ago, Mongo and I and a bunch of other patrollers were at a dog school at Snowbird and Alta. And that program was put on by an organization called WBR, or Wasatch Backcountry Rescue. And, you know, they had standards and they had instructors and they had a solid organization that offered a dog school and really provided a framework, especially for the dog programs within Little Cottonwood, Big Cottonwood, and the surrounding Wasatch County. And we were all talking one night about how it would be great if we could do that here in Colorado. So fast forward to now, there's now an organization here in Colorado called CRAD, or Colorado Rapid Avalanche Deployment. And they're sort of the standard bearer of testing and criteria and instruction for the state of Colorado. So all of our dogs have to be validated under that standard, and all of the ski patrols in the area, from us in Beaver Creek to A Basin and Copper and Keystone, Breckenridge, Winter Park, you know, all members of CRAD, and so now all the dogs are trained to the same level. You know, it used to be like our buddy at A Basin would be like, hey, my dog Rio, I think she's ready, and we're like, all right, well, why don't you come over? And you know, we set up a drill, and he did it, and Mongo and I would look at each other and be like, yeah, looks good, right? So we wanted it to be more professional. We wanted to have a standard, and so that's what we have now. And you know, also we're affiliated with the Flight for Life helicopter that's based out of the hospital in Frisco, and they're an amazing resource because they actually allow us to train with other resorts. So a couple weeks ago, we did an exchange with Beaver Creek, where the helicopter came and landed and picked up one of our dog teams, flew them over to Beaver Creek where they'd set up a big drill, and they picked up the Beaver Creek team, flew them back over here. So we've done that with A Basin, we've done it with Breckenridge. Moxie and I are actually going to do that with Winter Park at the end of March. So it's an amazing resource, and the training is great, the instruction is great, and that's sort of how, you know, we've helped grow our program, and not only our program, but really the avalanche dog programs within the state of Colorado.
So. When they're training to find humans, do they ever accidentally find animals, like dead ones?
They haven't yet, but we're still waiting.
How do the dogs know? Like, I know that it's like a game for them, but is there a certain way that they know, okay, now I have to go find, now is the time, like, do they wear the vest and that's how they know? Or how do they know that they have to, that right now is the time that they go and find people or drills and stuff? Yeah, they're at work.
No more
Yeah,
playtime.
so through our training, you'll notice right now for for Pepper and I specifically, she's leashed to her collar, which means that she's just, we're walking around, she's listening to me, everything. When I move that leash onto her vest, that indicates it's kind of time to, okay, now we're going to go to work. And so the way we act and the way we kind of get the dog excited about stuff, they kind of know what's going on based off our body language and how we operate. But then we have a very specific set of actions that we go through in order so they know, okay, this is actual, we're on, this is time to search. And so for Pepper specifically, I'll move the leash then to her harness and kind of get her kind of riled up, like she'll get that energy, and she likes to bounce. I call her a hoppy puppy instead of a happy puppy, because she bounces a lot. And so she'll bounce and she'll get ready to go, and then you kind of bring her in front. Once you're in that search area, they get to that focus. They know that point of whether we're traveling somewhere to the site, and then once we get to the site, it's kind of there's that nice. We kind of calm down a little bit and get them ready to go, and then they kind of sit there, and you give the command, and then the dog is off. And they're, she's got this patch on her that's a fur missile, and that is very true of both Moxie and Pepper. They are rockets right into the field. And one of our older dogs, Jake, he is notorious for that as well. Like, he'll bolt all the way down to the bottom of the slide path, and his handler, Maddie's standing all the way back up. He's like, I don't want to go all the way down to just work all the way back up. And then they ended up coming all the way back up. But, yeah, they know really well whether it's playtime versus work time.
It is crazy how they can sense it. Also, too, like, usually when we go out to search, we have certain equipment that we take with us. Even if we're just doing a quick drill, we'll probably grab a probe and a shovel. And I know with Moxie, as soon as she sees that shovel come out, she knows that it's go time. So, yeah, it's amazing how they can sense it when it's about to happen.
Oh, what happens if they don't want to do it?
Then they stop coming to work and they become pets. That's right. They're still good dogs.
They're just a family dog then.
Are they on a special diet, like extra protein, or is it just go?
Well, they are on a special diet. We can do another shameless plug. So there's a dog food company out of Connecticut called Get Joy, and they approached us a couple years ago about wanting to sponsor our dogs. And oh wow! And so they've got some really good products. They have a freeze-dried food and also fresh prepared food that's like human-grade stuff. It's not raw. It's cooked, but it comes in packets, and the dogs love it. They seem to do. Their coats are great. Their teeth are great. They stay really skinny, but seem to have a lot of energy. So I don't know. I guess what I heard is that the guy that started that company, he was a Facebook guy that wanted to start a dog food company because his dog was really sick and he couldn't figure out why, and he did a lot of research and this and that. But they're actually going to be out here this weekend and around with the Dine with the Dogs on Sunday. So if anybody wants any information on them, they'll be up there. So that's 10:30 to 11:30 on Sundays up at Henry's Hut, which is that yurt at the top of Chair 4, 5, and 11. So it's just kind of a meet and greet. You can come pet the dogs and, ask questions.
This might be a question for Mongo. I'm not quite sure. I know the idea of... Oops. Should I wait? I know the idea of a Avalanche dog program has been talked about for a long time, and other than the safety side, clearly has a lot of great PR value. How'd you finally get management to say yes?
Well, it was a work in progress, and I was persistent, And it did have a dose of failure to begin with, and then it took a change of management. And that was when it was 2 thumbs up, like, why haven't we done this 10 years ago, kind of a response. And so I was persistent. Yeah.
Can these dogs be used for search and rescue training as well, or just Avalanche?
They can be if they're trained for it. So Avalanche search and rescue is specific to air scenting. And a lot of the field search and rescue that takes place is more tracking. I did some tracking with Rocky early on, you know, and it's the kind of thing where a person will walk through the woods and put flagging up high where they walk, and then, you know, you can watch, see if the dog can follow where that person went. And that's a little different too, because what they do, you know, a lot of times, like for search and rescue, they'll have like clothing of the person, like if it's a lost child or anybody. Oftentimes, then they'll have the dog smell that, and then they'll put them to work, and then the dog then is specifically looking for that specific odor. So ours is a little more general, right? We just want them to find something in the air. And also in avalanche work, the area is more defined, right? It's like that 300 by 300, or like if you ever saw a real avalanche, like that's defined, like you know where the avalanche is. And you want that dog running through that area looking for the air scent. Search and rescue is a lot more vague, covers a lot more terrain, crashing through the woods, you know, all sorts of, you know, having your dog be out of sight and, you know, recall to get him back. It's much more, I guess, complicated in certain ways, and if you don't train on it, it's not like I could just say, oh, well, I want to keep Moxie working in the summertime, so I'm just going to plug her in. Like, I'd have to do a lot of training with search and rescue in order to do that. Now, there are dogs that do double duty because that's what their handler, you know, really wants to do. And they're very involved with, you know, I know over in Summit County, a lot of those ski patrol dogs, those guys are also on Summit Search and Rescue, and they run their dogs through both disciplines. And also in the water, in Lake Dillon, they have some of the dogs that can, you know, look for scent coming out of the water. And they drive them around with boats, and they stand on the front. So they're really effective tools, but they're only effective if the training is directed towards what you want them to do. So, and then to your point too, something that I hadn't touched on is that they are a very effective PR tool. And we do take the dogs to a lot of local schools, and we use the dogs to talk to the kids about skier safety and being responsible on the mountain, obeying closures, and, you know, just generally, you know, being good citizens on the mountain. And I think that it's as much of a valuable resource for that as it is for the avalanche thing. It's, you know, to be able to get kids' attention. You know, I think that when people grow up here, they have a tendency to be a little bit lax with, you know, their attitude or the rules or things like that. So for us to be able to go into schools and get kids' attention, you know, with the dogs, and then talk to them about being safe and smart on the mountain is an important thing.
Are they trained to rescue through ice as opposed to an avalanche, like frozen deep water situation?
Not, again, you know, the dogs that search on water, it's in the summertime. I think ice it's a pretty impermeable barrier that would be difficult to, you know, locate. But again, like, you know, you have to train your dog to the specific type of searching that you want him to do. It's actually pretty cool. There's a guy in the Air Force who started the domestic search. There was no domestic search and rescue dogs in the military. They have them for overseas, but in the United States they would just use search and rescue teams, and FEMA certified dogs. But military didn't have any, and so this guy took it upon himself to start training an Air Force search and rescue dog, and he's got that dog so it can jump out of airplanes, with parachutes and like all sorts of stuff. It's crazy the videos that he shows. So the point of that, not to digress, is just that, you know, these dogs are super smart and super capable. And if you put the time and the effort into whatever type of training that you want them to do, they will generally, you know, excel in that.
If you have a child who's hurt as a ski patrol person and they're really upset, do you ever bring a dog down to try to calm them down?
Puppies. But if they're upset and they happen to be up near the outpost, then, you know, we do have them come in and calm down. Not just kids, but, you know, adults and other, you know, people. But no, we don't deploy them around the mountain in that regard because it's not really safe and effective. You know, I think that, you know, our job as ski patrollers is to identify what the person's problem is, stabilize that problem, and get them off the mountain as quick as possible. Now, if the kid's hurt, but not hurt, then maybe, you know, you can convince them to come up to PHQ and see the dogs, and, you know, that usually helps. But no, we wouldn't take them on the mountain to do that.
So I have a quick question. What happens? So you're in an outpost and you get called to a 1050 or a wreck, and then who watches the dog while you're out? Like, are the dogs just kind of in the outpost hanging out?
Yeah. You know, I guess that's part of the training, is that we have to get patrollers used to the dogs as well as the dogs used to patrollers. You know, sometimes they're kenneled. We do have kennels in most of our outposts. But generally, you know, these dogs are pretty good natured, and they're comfortable around all of ski patrol. And yeah, they just hang out.
There's a question.
We'll let Billy answer the next one.
So, did you say that these dogs could ride chairlifts?
Oh yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, they ride chairlifts every day. So we'll get up on the gondola first thing, and then we move over to chair 3 or chair 4 to go to the various outposts. And we start off with a slow for them, so they get used to it coming around nice and slow, trying to get them to jump up onto the chair by themselves, obviously with some help from us. But once they get comfortable with it, they hop right up on there, turn around, and lay down. And a lot of them get really excited about it because they know they're going somewhere fun. And so you kind of have to hold them almost to keep them from jumping off and going crazy and barking at everybody. But yeah, they ride chairlifts every day. They ride snowmobiles all the time. So they're active, and they, you know, we get them around everywhere we go. So we'll take them in toboggans if we need to move them long distances or down the hill. At the end of the day, sometimes we've got a specialized dog toboggan that has 3 walls kind of built up on it, and leash points that we can attach to them, and then we drive them down like we would anybody that's got injured on the mountain that can throw 2 or 3 dogs in the back of that and drive them down the hill that way. John has recently started putting them dogs in the trailer behind the snowmobile, which is pretty fun to watch. They're cruising along that way. So we have all kinds of different ways to get them around the hill, but yes, they do ride chairlifts every day.
I have a question. Do the dogs ever go in the chairlift by themselves?
No, they won't get on the chairlift. They'll try and get on the gondola by themselves, or they'll get in with, you know, other public or other people, you know, other employees. But no, they won't try and get on the chairlifts by themselves. They'll always be with us.
Do you team them up, or you go with your favor, or one at a time, or depending on the emergency?
Depending on the emergency, if we were to deploy somewhere, generally it would be 1 dog team and 1 avalanche technician, because that's all that's going to fit in the helicopter. If it's a very large scene with multiple people caught in, multiple dog teams could be deployed. Not always at the same time, because you don't, you know, as you can see with Moxie and Pepper, how they are very easily distracted, and that's a big distraction for sure. So you might let one dog work a site and kind of get exhausted, and then pull them out and move another dog in to try and do it as well. But throughout the day, it's not like we're paired up or anything specifically, but they all get along really well. So it's if they're in the same outpost, they're doing what they do.
We'll come back to you, sweetie. We're gonna.
How deep of a burial does human scent still rise?
Well, I've heard that dogs have located people up to 20 feet deep. Now, in that type of situation, that person probably has been there for a while. But yeah, upwards of 20 feet is what they're capable of.
You mentioned outposts. I was wondering where the outposts are that you're.
Well, outposts are where we're stationed during the day. So on Vail Mountain, we've got 6 outposts. We have our main patrol headquarters, which is at the top of Cheers 4, 5, 11. We have one near Wildwood, one at the top of Eagle's Nest Gondola, one out by Two Elk in China, one in Blue Sky, and then one down at the mid station at Gold Peak. And so on any given day, we could be at any one of those outposts.
Yikes, that's great coverage.
What happens if one of you guys get hurt while trying to save someone else?
That's a very good question. So we, in their training, we work to get to a point where we do have second handlers that spend a lot of time with the dogs. And so if, we're on a day off and we need to get the dog on the hill or something, there's another ski patroller that is trained in their specific commands and how they operate, that if we needed to, they needed to go do something, we would trust them in order to work the dog. So if one of us were to get hurt on scene or something, obviously that's going to take a lot of other resources to come and help us as well. But most of the patrollers on the hill have a pretty good knowledge of how our dogs operate and where they go, that there's going to be somebody around that would be able to handle taking the dog back on a snowmobile or, getting them to a safe place that we would have an ability to get them off the hill.
Do dogs ride on the back of the ski patrol skis?
Not on our skis. We try and keep dogs away from our skis as much as possible because, as you know, ski edges are very sharp, and their legs, there's a lot of blood vessels and veins and arteries that run through their legs and limbs that they can get cut very easily by ski edges. So if you guys are ever up on the hill and you see the dogs out running around on the snow and you want to come say hi, that's totally fine. But we ask that you either step out of your skis and come say hi, or just remain totally still so the dog can approach you, because the last thing we need to do is cut one of their limbs and then they've got to go to the hospital and get stitches and everything. It can be a big ordeal. So we won't have them ride on our skis, but like John said earlier, that Moxie and Pepper are a pretty good size that we can throw them up on our backs and on our backpacks and stuff and ride out that way. Or they will ski between our legs. Sometimes they'll run along and we'll hold on to their harnesses, and that way there's different ways of getting them around the hill, but not on our skis. Labradors.
Goldens and Labs fulfill all the needs, right? Check all the boxes. Now, I've seen Australian cattle dogs and shepherds and heelers and everything. Tremendous work dogs. A Belgian Malinois could be a really good search dog. Maybe not so good around kids and people and being poked and prodded. German shepherds, great. I've seen great. Abe Asen had a German shepherd named Sasha. Awesome dog. But labs and retrievers are a known commodity, and we just don't want to risk putting our dog program in jeopardy by having a bad experience with a dog that doesn't like being around people.
And their pedigree of being working dogs and specifically hunting dogs too lends it really well to their noses, which is kind of one of the main things that we're looking for. As they are our pets, they are our dogs, but they are tools for this job. So a really strong nose and a strong drive is what we're looking for out of them. So yeah, that can come through other breeds, but the history and the pedigree of these specific breeds lends it really well to this job.
Any other questions? Or we got one more.
Is it true that not all the same kind can do the same? Like, not all the Labradors can do this?
That's true. There are some dogs that don't have the drive or don't have the desire or don't want to work. And that's where, when you select your puppy, that becomes an important consideration of looking at what kind of dog they are.
Are ski patrols ever on snowboards?
Not at Vail.
Not at Vail.
Much like Belgian Malin was, I'm seeing effective ski patrollers on snowboards. But we don't have any here at Vail because we have too many roads, right? Too many catwalks, and it's hard to pull a toboggan, especially in the warm weather, down those roads when you're on a snowboard.
Those are great questions. Any other questions? So I want to really thank Billy and Pepper and John and Rocky and Moxie and Charlie and Uller and Mongo and Mike Kanger for coming tonight. So thank you. Yeah, so that was great. And also, when is Sundays? Sunday mornings? What? Sunday, 10:30 to 11.
Dine with the dogs.
And what was that dog food brand? Get Joy. That sounds amazing. Well, thank you, John. Get Joy dog food brand.